Delta's building for our 2024 year. Welcome. I am Dr. Shaniqua Smith, a restorative practitioner and one of the founders of Black Policy Day. I am also a member of the illustrious Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and a collaborator of the Black Voters Impact Initiative, where we embrace, educate, and empower Black and marginalized community members to be civically engaged inside and outside the voting booths. We are also a community that focuses on the importance of learning, connecting, and accompanying our community members as we grow politically. But before I get into our agenda for tonight, I am going to create some space for our esteemed panelists to self-introduce themselves so we can go forth for planning for our webinar tonight. And so with that, I would like to pass it on to India Frith. India?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can't see you, but we can
Okay.
hear you.
For some reason, my camera is not cutting on, but I'm gonna fix that. But good evening, everybody. My name is India Frith, and I'm a full-time student at West Virginia State University, and I major in social work and modern child development. And the organization that I do work with is Black Voters Impact Initiative. And my position that I do with Black Voters Impact Initiative is I am a youth organizer, and also I am a social media supporter.
Thank you, Andy. And with that, we'll pass it on to Krista.
All right, hold on here. Can y'all hear me? Am I on mute?
Now we hear you.
Okay, great. I got too many things going on here. Hi, everybody. I'm Crystal Good, founder and publisher of Black by God and one of the co-founders of Black Policy Day. And I'll be sharing with you an update about our Folk Reporters program shortly. And I will pass to Dr. Deidre Guyton, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Deidre Guyton. I am a member of, as my sister Sora said, the illustrious Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where I am the social action chair for the state of West Virginia. And I will pass it on to Dr. Karen Williams if she's available. And if she's not, I will pass it on to Miss Katanya Hart.
Well, hello, I am Katanya Hart, and my organization is the Partnership for Furthering Arts and Education. And I, too, am one of the co-founders of Black Policy Day. And I'm very thrilled to be here, and hopefully we'll share a little bit about what's currently going on with the Crown Act.
Well, thank you all esteemed guests for your greetings. And I also would like to give a greetings for Dr. Armstrong, which will be joining us later on this evening during the webinar to represent Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So we just like to welcome you to join us tonight in this collective educational space where we set the goal to equip ourselves through our knowledge and resources to make sure that we become the voices of our community and have the tools that we actually need to be civically engaged and be the voice for our communities. Tonight, our Black Policy esteemed guests will share some of their internal highlights from Black Policy Day. And then we'll also talk about what's next. And also, how do we continue to build our strength? Because we know that doing things in one day is not going to continue to build our strength. So what are the next steps that we actually do to continue to build this space? And so all our panels will actually give their different perspectives on those spaces. But before I go forward in that space to give everybody their self-reflections, I will like to create some space to ask Dr. Williams to actually introduce herself. Can you hear us? I think that Crystal put something in that she said that, can you check thank you, Alex, for giving us technical support. I think Crystal put a message in the chat that some people are having problem, I think, checking in. And I think Dr. Williams been having a little technical issue. Crystal, So I'm gonna say,
Yeah, some folks are having trouble getting in. The registration link is not, I'm not sure, but just maybe, can you send me a link for the registration correctly, please? Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Williams. Can you hear us? We can't hear you.
That's because I'm muted. And, and right now the link is not strong. I tried to get it on my computer and it takes me to a page that I can't go any further. There's no way that I can get in.
Well, your camera's frozen, so it might
Can you
stay.
hear me?
Yes, but you might want to cut off your camera because your camera's frozen, so that might help your connection if you cut off your camera. Well, we just gotta roll with it with the technical issues. We'll let her jump in when this is resolved. But before I go forward with our reflections, I would like to give a shout out to all the organizations that supported us, sponsored us consistently in these years, volunteered, and most importantly, all our different schools, our high schools, our technical schools that travel far and near to actually be supportive, and not only be supportive, but create the experience that we also have in Black Policy Day. And so when we go forth before our reflections, I would like to start off with passing this reflection space over to Kristen.
Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to have completed another Black Policy Day. Thank you so much to everybody that participated, that supported, that played a role in it. It felt very organized this year. Felt like it felt like we know what we're doing, and that is something that's very special about this event. We didn't know what we were doing when we started. We just did it, and you all did it with us. And here we are again, setting a tradition within our community. And at this event, we hosted the first Folk Reporters training. If you haven't heard of Folk Reporters is citizen journalists, where we're asking everyday citizens to attend public meetings. Public meetings can be, of course, legislature committees. They could be your city council. They could be a dog catcher meeting. They could even be a public meeting for your university. If you're a college student, you can attend the Board of Governors. We have a program, a training program. Ellie is watching. She's our project manager. She will put her information in the chat. We'll also share some of the stories from this legislative session. And if you haven't signed up for Black by God's newsletter, please do. Please support our Folk Reporters program. One of the beautiful things about Folk Reporters is that we meet you where you are. And we really try to take away sort of the classism of journalism, right? You don't have to have a journalism degree to be a folk reporter. You don't have to have a journalism degree to be a journalist, right? And so we meet you where you are. So some folks like to do long reports, article style. Some folks want to do videos. Some folks do photographs. Some folks do TikTok. Some folks do audio, right? The point is that we need you to be a witness, right? At the essence of Folk Reporters is that you change the room when you go in there, especially when you have a little reporter notepad and you're typing. And well, if you've got melanin in your skin, they know that you're there, okay? So it's very important that we participate in this because, friends, our media in West Virginia is no longer truly local. We've lost the local reporters that attend public meetings. We've lost we've lost something that we've never had, but we're building it through Folk Reporters, and that is a diversity of reporters. Black, white, not English speaking, all folks are welcome under the Folk Reporters tent. And I can't tell you how important this is because you know, and I know that diversity matters. And it matters when we're telling our stories, and it matters when we're reporting out. And I'll round up with this, and that is we need you. And I don't want to say that it's simple. It does take time. But what we're asking you to do is to watch a committee meeting and to take notes about it and share those notes with us. And why is this important? Because as you know, things in committee meetings just get slipped in. There could be a huge action, I believe Mike Pushkin's just um, just use the process to stop a bill in committee, right? Because the chairman wasn't there. And because he knew that procedure, right, he could stop that bill. And I share that because if we or you or whomever wasn't in that committee room at that time, we wouldn't know this, right? And so that's where it all goes down. So please, we're going to have a folk reporters training coming up. It's not too late. You can still participate in the legislative session, but beyond that, we need you in your communities attending public meetings. It makes a difference. And with that, my name is Crystal and I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Krista. We definitely appreciate it. And also the details that you're going to follow in our next round. Now I will pass it over to Dr. Guyton.
I've been involved for 3 years now, and it gets better and better. So kudos to you all. And you never would know that it wasn't organized the first or second time, because it still ran smooth. We all knew what the purpose was. We all know why we were there. What I would love to see and what I take away is I did not see as many 20 to 30-year-olds there. They may have been, but I did not see them. We need them to get involved with everything. You see 70, 60, 70, 80, and then you see the teenagers, which is good, but we still need those 20 to 30-year-olds to get involved with. I look for better next year. I've been telling everybody about it. So hopefully I'll be able to bring more with me next year as we move along. And I do want to thank you all for getting me involved. We got a lot of work to do.
Thank you for sharing. Dr. Williams?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can give us your introduction and your reflection all together.
All right. We work with the Black Policy Day. Our national requires that we have an AKA day at the Capitol. And I can't say anything wrong or anything negative about what we experienced this year. It was well planned. We felt very welcome. We had over 40 members to show up for the Black Policy Day. It was excellent. I thought that your opening, and even though I was a recipient, and the Resiliency Award, and also highlighting that it was Women's History Month, was so appropriate for the venue, what we experienced. I've heard nothing but good comments from all the way from my national office down to the local chapters. And we look forward to working with you again next year. So thank you for Dr. Shaniqua, Katanya, and Crystal for your leadership and your guidance. You are phenomenal women.
Thank you. Thank you for charting a path and doing some work that we can actually model after. Danya?
Well, I just want to say that I am thrilled to have Black Policy Day, to have a community that can surround me and hug me as go day to day, getting the work done that needs to take place. I feel myself an everyday warrior. You often come across situations that can leave you stunned, and the work that I can pour into Black Policy Day makes me feel elevated. I might not be, but it definitely makes me feel elevated. And the day of, seeing everyone come out, have a good time. I definitely want to thank Dr. Smith for all the work that she puts in, all the hours. Her whole family is involved in making sure that it gets done. I have only me, and then me on a part-time because of, a full-time job. I do hope that Black Policy Day will manifest itself in a full-time job in the advocacy area and working with my community. And when one is elevated, all gets elevated. And I'd like to continue to see that with Black by God, Crystal carrying that and the voice of the African American community and concerns. I think I'd like to encourage individuals to share that publication. Everyone, when I ask them, should know what Black by God is. And so I charge our audience to get copies, to take links, pull them into their social media, bring them to their churches, and make sure they know our one standing, as far as I know, the one standing publication that is focused, but not only, but focused on the African American community in West Virginia and Appalachia. And it is a fine piece of work. And Dr. Guyton, it is amazing that you bring up the young people that are missing, because Dr. Smith and I had a conversation earlier about making incentives as well as programming for those individuals to come and getting that information out sooner than later. I can tell you I've roped a young man in today. I don't think he knew I hit him, but he sure gave me his information, and he was very interested in finding out more. And so that's very exciting, to definitely not to lose our base, not to move so far away from who we are and what we started, but definitely expanding and encompassing more individuals. He told me, as a young man applying for a job, he'd never been in our Capitol before. He said, "It looks like it's a nice building. How are you applying for a job in the capital city and really have never been to the Capitol?" We want to make more spaces so that people feel more empowered. That's what I want to take with me, is that more people, more empowerment, and more Crown ordinances across West Virginia. So, Dr. Smith, back to you.
Thank you, Katanya. Speaking of more spaces and more people, I would like to create space for India to actually share her reflection, because we not only this year invited the youth to actually be in the space or talk to the youth, they actually organize this space. So we're very happy to continue to grow in Black Policy Day in these spaces. India?
Hello. I'm sorry, I'm still fighting with my camera. But so with Black Policy Day this year, I was able to have the gift from Dr. Smith to be able to facilitate with the youth. So this is my first time facilitating for Black Policy Day. And I actually facilitated 2 groups. And the first group, it went well. We had some youth speakers, some great youth speakers, and talked about different policies. But with the second group, knowing it was after lunch, everybody's all over the place. And so we was able to kind of redirect our motion of what we had planned for Group B. And we was actually able to create an unexpected youth forum. And some of the things that the youth highlighted about was talking about mental health. They talked about bullying. They also talked about the elimination of the DEI and how that also affect some children, that's some of the high schoolers that actually have learning disabilities in their schools. And I found that very impactful. And also to some of the other students able to talk about policies that were important to them as well. And so also to just, moving forward, like I was talking to Dr. Smith, hopefully every year going on, we're able to start a youth forum with the youth during Black Policy Day. And also to like how it is very important for us to create these spaces for the youth. So also this gives them opportunity to speak on policies that's important for them. And also to just creating this safe space for them. And it's also a way to get them more civically engaged. But that was how impactful that was for me. I enjoyed it a lot, and just hearing them talk about policies. So that's how it went on my end with the youth.
Well, thank you everyone for sharing your reflections and the impactfulness of Black Policy Day that we all have collectively contributed to and created. But then we all have this question of what's next? How do we go forward? Not only on the state level, but how do we go forward locally in our communities? And we want to make sure that we continue to, and we know that we have a long way to go, but we want to make sure that we continue in this space of not only building for this day of us talking to our legislators, but taking these actions and making sure that we do these in our community, that we go into our city council meetings, that we go into our school board meetings, that we are simply creating the space that we're creating right now, coming together with each other, talking, and figuring out how that we're going to be the voice and address the issues that are facing our communities. And so we want to know that Black Policy Day is a day, but it really represents the year-round civic engagement that we all do throughout the year. And we have to continue to do this. And so one of the questions is how we do this. And one thing we want to say that is that through our newsletter, this is a tool that we use to get information out in Black by God. So if you're among us right now and you're not on Black by God email list, or you're not on our monthly newsletter from Black Policy Day, please put your email in the chat. We will make sure that you are connected to that information so you can see what's actually going on. And we know that we are halfway through the legislative season. If you received our newsletter, we put some bills in there and put where these bills is at, because on our Black policy agenda, we provide a list of where certain bills is at. And if you want to know, you can actually go, if Alex can drop it in the chat, the link to the legislative of the link that you can actually go to this update and see what kind of bills is going on. And not only do we want to see in this session what bills is going on and make sure we contact our legislators, but we want to make sure also that after the 60 days, what are we doing next? Because truthfully, if you really want to know, the decisions are made before interims come in, before the legislative season come in. And so last year was our first year that we received support from Center on Budget and Policy, where we was able to go through interims and actually to meet our legislators and talk to them then. So in the planning time of the legislative season, we was able to be in that space. So we want to continue to invite individuals to that space, because a lot of people say, well, there's so many things on the agenda and we want to focus on environment. We want to focus on housing. We want to focus on criminal justice. Our school discipline is important. The Crown Act is important. Mental health is important. And we understand there are so many aspects. And that's why when we come together collectively, this is a space that we actually could come to collectively to address these issues. And not only what's going on in the legislature, what is going on in our communities. We want to make sure that we stay connected so we can support each other in our communities. So if you're among us and there's something going on in your community that you want us to be aware of, make sure you put it in the chat so we can start connecting and statewide supporting each other in these different spaces in our community. And once again, I ask everyone to tap into our newsletter and Black by God. Crystal, I think if you put a link in there to make sure that individuals connect, to make sure they're aware of, this is the spaces that we have in our social media. And as India said, how do we use our social media to make sure that we stay involved and make sure individuals? Well, I'm going to pass it over because I know that we all have a space to speak on what is next for our organizations, how our organizations is going to work still locally, how we're going to use the tools, as Crystal talked about, with our folk reporter. And most importantly, as Katanya was talking about the Crown Act, but how do we even post this on a local and a municipal level? And so with that, I am going to pass it to my sister, Crystal Good.
Hello, I guess I got a little excited about folk reporters, but my reflections on the year are about folk reporters on the event, and how excited I was that we were able to train, I think 15, 20 people that sat in with us. One thing I wanted to make a suggestion here after hearing about the need for 20 to 30-year-olds. And, one thing I learned from Black Policy Day, our Young, Black, and Gifted webinar, is that often we think that the young people are just going to solve all the problems. And I really have had a recentering and haven't forgotten what Ocean said at that meeting, that young people are not the future, young people are now. And I'd like to make a suggestion that we create a youth-led and by youth, young adult led committee that is our young, Black, and gifted alumni and let them organize as they would and as they can. And perhaps that's something we can talk about with India leading because it's just some people wrangling. And India, you have watched your auntie people wrangle for years now. So I'd like to make that suggestion. I think it's very important what Dr. Guyton said. And Katanya about that age range and what we need to do to incentivize them and support them. And I don't think it's going to come from our imaginations. I think we need to have the young people figure out what incentivizes them, what they need, and how to build their own alumni network within Black Policy Day. And with that, we have Ellie that will be dropping some links over in the chat. I think so, if she can. If you can't drop the links in the chat, Ellie, you can just send them to the host, to Alex, and she'll get them there. We are planning a Folk Reporters training for the 29th. If you would like to join us, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Ellie. It's a short and sweet training program, just an hour of your life, and we hopefully build some confidence there and a network, because one of the things that Black Policy Day is doing that has not been done in our community is trying to network the entire state. That means the Northern Panhandle with Southern West Virginia, and we all know those are two very different worlds, but we are united. We are united in our challenges. And something very unique that I'd like to mention here that Pastor Watts always reminds us, and that is we have an opportunity to build a strategy for Black Policy Day for any of the issues by working through the Coalfield Communities Committee. And I want to encourage you, I'll drop a link to read the Coalfield Communities plan. And if you take a look at that, you will see that I believe we have 40 some counties that are coal counties, and they stretch from the north to the south of West Virginia. And all of those counties are impacted. So often when we think about coal, we just think about Southern West Virginia, but that's not true. Southern West Virginians, there's plenty of coal up north. So I would like to ask this group here to please look up the Coalfield Communities document. Read it. You can read it. It's not Project 2025. You can do it in a day, okay? In a few hours. And get your wheels and minds turning, because one of the actions and outcome from this year is not just for Black by God. It's not just the Folk Reporters program, but also how can we facilitate some deep thinking, thinking about a Black think tank, or what does that look like? And just really making sure that all ideas are on the table and that we're able to build a plan for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And so I hope that I can bring everyone that's listening into the Folk Reporters program. I want to challenge everybody to do one Folk Reporters, just one. Watch one committee meeting and report out in a way that you want to, that's your style, that's your flavor. And please, everybody, we've got to get you watching committee meetings, because once we start to build that muscle and really start to understand process, and there's no other way to learn this process except to be in it. You can read all the books, you can watch all the TV shows, but until you're actually there and in it, do you see how it really works? And you will see how much power you really have. And with that, my name is Crystal, and I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Crystal. And with that, we will pass to Dr. Guyton.
Delta Sigma Theta, we're going to continue to monitor the legislative sessions, and we're going to follow our 5-point thrust, dealing with education, economic development, international awareness, political awareness, and of course, mental and physical health awareness. Our plan is to keep the community aware and involved, and of things that are happening on the state, on the national and on local level. It starts in our communities. So we're going to keep them involved there. It's going to take all of us to continue doing what we're doing and that is getting involved with the community. One thing that I want to stress is that there's going to be a community town hall on Thursday at 5:30 in Beckley. So want to get involved there as well. So that's what we're going to be doing as Deltas. We're also gearing up for our Delta Days at the nation's capital, which is at the end of this. Well, actually, it's starting Friday. So we're gonna see what our sorority has to offer, what they're going to be telling us to what is going to be important to us moving forward. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Dr. Guyton. We appreciate you sharing with us. Dr. Williams?
Yes, let me get my camera back on again. Here we
Your
go.
camera is on. We see you.
I know, but I have people calling me that are trying to get on this Zoom, and Reverend English needs help. So somebody please help him. But, I just want to say thank you for inviting me and including me on this forum. And I'm so glad to see Dr. Guyton here. I haven't met her before, but it's so good that we can come together as women, no matter what our colors, and we can share and build our communities up. Because I know I was so impressed with the Delta Social Action Committee, and they awarded me years ago. And I've always been complaining to my sorors that our program was not strong enough. And we have now a stronger program. And in AKA, our program is called Connection Social Action. And we have an international guide that every chapter gets. And in this guide, there are the strategies, the tools, the resources that you need to create a successful program. And the guide provides is our program is called Soaring to Greater Heights of Service and Sisterhood. Now, it's not just enough to have a tool, but like John Lewis said, you have to do something with it. And this guide provides techniques that we can use in social justice advocacy. And we're mandated to plan a political activity and get political engagement. And when I see sisters across the spectrum with like minds, we work together and we make it happen. And we have had voter engagement, voter registration drives. We've had candidate forums. We've had educational activities, voter registration. We do the SOAR, or the stroll to the poll. And we address issues that affect our communities, such as health disparities, education, and we encourage you and all our members to run for office. That's the big thing, that we have to get people who look like us to run for office. Because we know when we're not at the table, then we're on the menu. And we're being devoured right now. We're being eaten alive. But our SOAR initiative is S, strategies, O, organize, A, activate, and R, review. And the focus for our federal, state, and local advocacy started out as Black maternal and mental health. I'm sure the Deltas and the Zetas have similar kinds of issues with that, and increased mortality rates. We were going into COVID and the crisis of Black youth suicide. But now we're in a totally different ball game. And we're charged to support activities and develop grassroots issues that affect us here at our own time. Now, one of the things that I do want to stress, though, in these troubled times, we have to worry about our safety. And we have to devise tools and strategies to get people to know that they're responsible for our safety. I know that I work at a senior citizen building at the Roosevelt Center, and I had my seniors to have a table at Block Policy Day. There are seniors on the east end of Charleston who have never been in the Capitol. They were impressed. They enjoyed the whole day. But what we also do, I know Shaniqua and I, we volunteer for the Juneteenth committee. We had the police to come to our Juneteenth meeting and let them know that we want to be safe in our endeavors and at our events. Because last year at the YWCA Race Against Racism, the Proud Boys walked down the Capitol, in front of the Capitol on the boulevard and on Capitol Street. So what we have to do, we have to educate not only our community, but the police, that they have a responsibility to make sure that our people are safe. And that's something that we are trying to do. We are also planning some activities. There is a film called Bad Faith. This is the white nationalist movement. And what we plan to do is to host these viewings in our churches, in our community meetings, in our homes. And I know we collaborate with the Poor People's Campaign, and this is one of their initiatives. And we are going to make sure that we have this film out and about. We also want to make sure that we have and support some of the public forums that are going on, because they challenge people who won't come and have a public town hall. Then you have a town hall, just like they did in Beckley this past week. And they had empty chairs to show that our representatives didn't even show up. So that was in Raleigh County. We're planning one now for Kanawha County. And we have people that are going to support and back us, because, again, we have to bring our chair to the table. Like your soror Shirley Chisholm said, you bring your chair to the table and you make sure they start addressing our hairstyles, or they start addressing DEI and understanding what woke meant, so that we can come together. And we can't do it by ourselves because our groups are so small. But when we join hands, join sisterhood, join the fraternities and together, we make impact and we get people elected. So that's the one thing. Crystal, I know I've been telling you I'm going to write an article. I plan to do something. But the thing about it, we have to be proactive. And you know what AKA say. This is a serious matter.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. We definitely appreciate your work and the information that you're sharing with us. And let us continue to be in conversation and communication so we can continue to support each other, not only in our communities, but across the state. And I will.
Shaniqua knows, I'll show up at your house.
Sure will.
Right. Well, I'll show up at your house. And India knows. She knows me. I hope one day she considers me to be an auntie too. We embrace each other.
You are Miss Williams.
Oh.
Well, India, on that note, I would like to pass it to you.
What's next? So what I have is I actually took some time today and went back to our youth webinar that we had. And I just collected some data about for what we all said, what all the youth said, that can be helpful for us in our work. And we said that, of course, some supports that we could use, like we said, trainings, ways that we're able to create more spaces for us to be able to work with other youth statewide, as in for us to also be able to learn and grow more in our work. And also, like we said, networking, able to bounce ideas off of each other. Also, too, like we said, conferences, like those can be very helpful. I know those helped me to be able to be the person I am today, to be able to facilitate. And also to have to help us be able to approach things with an open mind, to have the ability to understand what's going on in our community. Because that's what I'm working on. I'm still trying to understand what's going on and still try to learn. And also being able to have help to articulate our needs in policy. And also me being on campus, I'm a student on campus. So just being able to find ways to have students in college, on college campuses, be more civically engaged, and being able to connect with them on how to vote and also be civically engaged. Because I know a lot of students on campus, they don't know what's going on because they're so focused on their studies and things. So ways that we can even meet them halfway and come on campus and be like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how you can be more civically engaged, or things like that. So I know that can be very helpful. And like we said, just creating the space for us. Because we're not too old or too young to learn anything. But that's what I feel like that can be more helpful for what's next on the youth end part. Yeah.
Well, thank you, India. We definitely appreciate you even going back. We had a webinar, Crystal and I, Young, Gifted, and Black, a couple of weeks ago, and it was great to hear from the youth themselves collectively, some things that they would need to strengthen their work and strengthen their vision in this state. So thank you for recapping that. And as we continue to do our work that we know that is important, not for us to talk about only for tomorrow, but to talk about our youth for today and now. And with that, Dr. Armstrong, thank you for fitting us into your tight schedule. I gave a welcome for you earlier today because I let them know that you was going to be late, but thank you. But at this time, we just want to give you some time for you to kind of sum up, introduce yourself, but just talk about what's next and how we go forward and continue to do this year-long work.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Smith, and greetings to my sisters from another group and other people who I have here, former students and all of the above. I am so pleased to be joining you tonight, and I should admit that I did not get a speeding ticket getting home from Charleston. So I got here in time because I wanted to be here and to stop. So on behalf of our international president, Dr. Stacy N.C. Grant, our Eastern Regional Director, Amelia Burchett, and myself, the West Virginia State Director. I'm in my second year as State Director, the first elected State Director for West Virginia. Prior to 2022, all our directors were appointed, but I was the first to be elected to serve the great state of West Virginia. You might not see a lot of blues around here, but we do have them. And you have seen me. I'm always around, and you probably think I only have blues, but I do have a closet full of blues. So, but I'm always there. And glad to see Miss Catania in her blue too. So we'll probably try to get her blue get her real blue at some point. Now there's blue. Just wear it, just claim it. And so we were really, truly happy to participate in in Black Policy Day because that fit one of our program concerns. We have this year the extraordinary power of she justice, social, economic, and social, health, and economic justice. And we piggybacked with the Black Policy Day to use that as our social justice to fulfill our state's social justice activity. But prior to that, we participated in Stroll to the Poll, in getting out voters, and we have had a number of people in all parts of the state working on doing voter registration. They did that in November. We from Bluefield to Morgantown. We have our Morgantown Soras up there, Fairmont and Morgantown WVU and the Morgantown itself, Bluefield, Charleston, and we were all working, and we do quite a lot. We do a lot of stuff for March of Dimes, which is not, so that would probably become part of our help. We do Women's Veteran Rocks and veterans. We are very big on veterans, and on we will be celebrating with the 688. They're going to be honoring the people at Congress, and I'll be going there in April. And one of our sorors, Millie Beasley, was one of those 688, and I am pleased to announce that I was able to meet her. She was, I think, close to 100 years old when I met her. Yeah, so I'm just so thankful that I'll be able to be part of that delegation to recognize her at Congress if they do not change that. But on a local thing, so we did have people, and we set up a table at the Black Policy Day. We spread it about. We had our people from Bluefield. And what I did mostly in that section was to promote Good Health Wins. And that's a program for vaccine awareness. And, it's part of the Negro Women Association. And so we did that, and I got a small grant that I was able to get there and to pass out waters. And if you had your bottles, I told you to scan the code to see where you could get the proper vaccines, where they are and what they're doing. So we do that for health. Our next health justice or health program that's coming up, which we are doing for the state itself, we're having a program, especially for women mostly, how to build your pelvic floor. And maybe some of you might not be there where you need to build up that pelvic floor, but we're going to be doing a webinar, and I will try to get the link out somehow or send it out. So it's on March 27th at 7:30. We have our Dr. Laurice Martin, who will be coming. She's a trained person that works with that, and she'll teach you how to build up your pelvic floor. So, for the women, mostly, that Kegel stuff, whatever. And so that will help you to get that area strengthened. And so if the men are on there, you can tell your wives or ladies or people to participate in that, especially if you've had children or anything like that. That pelvic floor sometimes does get a little weak, and you're having to run to the restroom more than you need to, or quickly where you can't get in. So we're going to be having that workshop. Another workshop we'll be having, and that will be in April, and that's for our economic justice. And we're going to be doing ways to help protect your finance and to help you to plan for your future, to make sure your money and everything. And that is going to be a workshop. That's going to be partnership with JP Morgan Chase. And I'm still waiting to confirm that, but on the 27th of April, the 24th of April. April 24th, I think, is that date that we have tentatively scheduled. And so I'm waiting from the person to give that to us. So those are the things. But moving forward, we are working, our presidents of the sororities and fraternities, they had an extremely a big program, big push early February to talk about how we are to react and respond to the President Musk and Trump's orders. And so they were all there. I don't know where any of you ladies on, any of you, but they were all there and they told us what we need to do. And one of the things they suggested that we not, that the people who are working should not just cover under their feet, just figure out and just like, because they're doing these things and they're hoping that people will just give up and just, do that. Because one of the things they said when they sent out those emails, it was right after those emails, we had that. And they said that email was not signed, and people should not have responded to it. They want you to respond. They want you to get scared. They want you to be frightened and then lose your strength and lose your everything and just falter. So they're asking us to do that, to continue to stay strong, to build up and to help where we can. So those are some of the things that we are doing on kind of locally, as I mentioned here, but nationally. And I should have said that in our regional section, I'm in the Eastern region, and we are divided up with 4 states: the District of Columbia, Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, and the country UAE. So all 5 of us. So we have there, and I could be jumping. I'm always jumping all over these states. Haven't gotten to UAE yet because we're still waiting to get the UAE state director to get our conference together so we can go over there to help her. But we are really working hard. We have Zeta Day on the Hill, and that is usually in September. And with the Congressional Black Caucus, we work with that, and we do the Momnibus Act for women's health. We've been going to our Congress and doing all of those things. So those are some of the things we have been doing, and that's what we're going to be continue to do. So.
Thank you, Dr. Armstrong, for sharing with us the local work. And I think with that, that's a good transition because Katanya's going to talk about, we know for years that she's been at the state level with the Crown Act, but how could we also pass it on a municipal level? Katanya?
Well, definitely in the email, the current bills that are running at our State House on the Senate and House side is included in the email information that's been sent out. The newsletter should have gone out this morning. If you did not receive it, again, please contact Alex and let her know you need your Black Policy Day newsletter. But on the local level, to show that the people want the Crown, which is creating a respectful and open world for natural hairstyles. It seems like it's just hair, but the fact is, it's simply racism. And we have to put a stop to it. And we need to educate people about it. Even their biases, you want to call it whatever you want to call it. The fact is, we are not getting promoted, not because we're not skilled, but because of something external, something someone else is carrying as baggage. We don't want that put on us. And if West Virginia is a place where some of our elected officials are saying there isn't racism, then why hasn't the Crown Act been passed as a state? The people, they do want it. But some people in power have decided they're not going to let it pass. And we need to let our voices be heard by going to those city council meetings and letting them know. We do. And so what you can do on a municipality level is have ordinance passed, letting the people know that not only all kinds are welcome here, but also we welcome individual skills to come make our community strong. So it starts with going and speaking to your representative on a city level and asking them how to put that forward. Will they sponsor an ordinance? I have had some municipalities say, well, we don't have a human rights commission and it'll cause a problem. The fact is we have a state human rights commission. We should be surrounding that organization because they're the ones that do the investigations. No one should have to be put under a microscope and sit home simply because someone else doesn't like how they're wearing their hair. Not that it's dirty, not that it's unbecoming, but simply because the individual doesn't like it. What does that have to do with my skill set? What does that have to do with productivity? It is a ridiculous focus. They criminalize us from the top of our head to the soles of our feet. We have lots of information that can be shared to educate not only your council members, but also your community to understand how, if this might not be impacting you as an individual, how it impacts our community, how it makes our money look funny. We all have a right to be gainfully employed and be looked at for our skills, not because of how we are looking. And that goes to even the clothes that we're wearing. So many people talk about students going to school and some, showing off this and showing off that. But unfortunately, our students are being attacked and taken a look at, again, because of their hair, because someone else has judged them. And just as much as there are bullies that are the same age, unfortunately, we have some adults that take the opportunity to be bullies as well. We have to put a stop to it. We have to continue to call out racism wherever it lies and wherever it stands. But in addition to that, we need to educate ourselves. We're talking about movies at the same time. We need to know what our history is. We need to know what our rights are. How do you do this in your municipality? It isn't just a blanket, action that you can simply put out there. That's another reason to ask the question, to educate yourself, but also, again, to know your own history, to know what your rights are, to be able to stand up proud, straight, and strong, and know that you know that you know. And we all know from, at least my faith, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there's power in the midst. Get with your neighbor. Get with that person at your job. Have little conversations with them. You might not know all, but you can definitely share with them some. It's extremely important that we do those things. I also want to make sure we had Dr. Armstrong talking about finance, and I just spent some time with Dr. Armstrong and some ladies. It's backwards. This book called Banker Ladies, and how African Americans manage their money successfully from a historic to a today's point of view. We have to know how to go about what has gone before. If we don't know our history, we are doomed to repeat, unfortunately, the very bad parts of it. I also think it's important, again, that we celebrate our holidays. Crystal was good enough to bring us in, and we were able to point out that there was slavery in West Virginia, that we need to know that it was February 3rd, 1865, that slavery ended here in West Virginia, and we need to make note of that, as people don't know. And they like to have our motto that mountaineers are free, and somehow everyone was free here. And that's not true. And I even recently saw a video on TikTok explaining how West Virginia separated from Virginia We need to do some correcting of some history. Let's celebrate Kwanzaa. Let's take up space. Let's be at the Capitol. Let's let them know we're here and what that actually means to us and our people. And again, organizations like the NAACP, we're sponsoring a trip to the national convention that's going to be taking place in Charlotte in July. Get with us. Come have fun with us. Come get the resources and bring them into the state and share them out with individuals. And that's, again, is going to be in July. There's many more things I'd love to share. Contact me, reach out to me. We have toolkits. We can work with you. We can get your story. We can get your crown stories, as well as work on publishing stories in Black by God. I don't know. I'm just excited. I'm excited about the work. You know, there's a joy in Black joy. And at the same time, I say, and I hear in my voice all the time, from the rising of the sun to the setting of the same, I fight, and I hope we fight together and we get done.
Run that back, Katanya, one more time. We need to hear it one more time.
From the rising of the sun to the setting of the same, we fight, we fight, we fight.
Well, thank you all, panelists, for sharing. I hope you all got a chance. Our audience, thank you for being here. Thank you for not only being in this space, but the work that we continue to do in our communities. We ask you to just stay in contact with us with our social media so we can continue to stay together and continue to build this space. We thank you. Have a great night, and we will definitely be in contact soon. Good night, everyone.